So, I'm curious because I was tossing and turning all night and just like have a lot on my mind. So, for those of you who have trauma in your past or like left a situation that was traumatic, finding yourself, maybe working for the first time, finding your independence, when you took that journey, how did you guys do it? Because like for me, I've always lived in isolation and cut off, and like I said in my last night's video, I've never worked before. And so there's a lot that I'm unfamiliar with. There's a lot that I don't know, regardless of my age. And so, like, when I first started at this store, I was actually in stocking. So I did stocking for like a month and then I switched to cashier. But when I switched to cashier, I had zero training. I like shadowed for one day and then I was on my own. So I knew nothing about till or how till worked. And it was like towards the end of October, so this was the beginning of the holidays where things were chaotic. The store was always busy. So I would say my first mistake, I believe, when I messed up the till was, I believe it was when the receipt paper ran out, which I didn't know how to change either. So it was super busy. The treadmill stopped working. I was also going through a lot of personal stuff, and I do suffer, or not as much now, but at that time, up until this point, I have suffered from depression and anxiety. So, with my personal life in shambles, the worst it has ever been, adjusting to work life, so it's like I'm already in a heightened state, when I go into work. So then, like, the treadmill wasn't working, the receipt paper ran out, the till was low, like the money in the register, there was like hardly any cash, because we had to really request that, but it was also really busy. So this is what I came into. So when the paper thing ran out, those of you who work in a store, cashier, and I don't know how it is at all stores, but here, you know, um, you have to reprint the receipt to know how to get back. And I don't know, I think what I did is I don't think I did that. I think because there wasn't very many items, that I just rescanned it and did it. Because again, I didn't know that you could do that at that time either. Because again, zero training. And when they switched me to cashiering, I was still actually on stocking schedule, so I didn't even have access to the online training either. So again, no background, no training of how things work. So I did shorten the till that time. But again, I didn't know. So I did get a strike against me. And at that time, I was just so overwhelmed and I didn't really know how things worked. I didn't even know if I could fight it or anything. It was just something that I had to accept in that moment. But that's something that didn't sit well with me. It's like I've had zero training. I know nothing about this. Nobody's explaining to me other than, hey, you messed up, right? Now, the second time, I also feel like it was very unfair. It was in December. So it was like the beginning of December again, during the holidays. Crazy, crazy time. I'm also not used to customer service because being around people before this triggered my anxiety, like this uncomfortable level. So here I am learning, because again, in isolation, not being around people. So, by this point in time, I think I really was getting used to being around people and I was talking more. I was getting in the holiday spirit. But I do have PTSD. And there was a situation that happened that I'm gonna have to get into with another video if you guys really want to know. But what ended up happening is I recognized that I had reached my limit in this situation, I recognized that I needed to get a higher up. And because I knew I couldn't handle the situation, there was basically no end to it, and I knew I was shutting down, and I knew that I would not be able to finish this transaction myself. So I went to find our team lead. And so again, I was panicking internally. I don't know how it was from other people's perspective, but in the inside, I was panicking internally. I was shutting down. My PTSD was kicking in. I was no longer thinking clearly. All I knew is I need help from a higher up. This wasn't something I was gonna ask an associate because this also involved a check. And I don't even know how the checking system works with the till either. Like, that confuses the crap out of me. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. So anyways, so I went to go find our lead at the time, and if our lead, I don't think our lead was out on the floor, but I know you could go to service desk and have someone like page them or call them, you know what I mean? So I was in a panic mode. I knew I was shutting down, but what happened was I basically got caught box. So an associate stepped in and kind of like, because I even said, I was like, hey, where's our lead? Who's our lead right now? Where's our lead? I was panicking, and then they're like, oh, what's going on? And then I told them, and then they came, but I don't think they really, I'm not upset with them. You know, I know that they were just trying to help, but the point is that they didn't stick around, they didn't stay with me. I don't think they really grasped the level of the situation, but as someone who, in that moment, like, I get my PTSD, my anxiety, like, everything was just like, you know, I was like, fudge, like, this is gonna bite me. So I don't know, maybe from other people's perspective, maybe it wasn't as big as it felt to me, but I knew in that moment that I needed a higher up to deal with this situation. And so what ended up happening was a big mistake. And when I got called back about this mistake, I explained to them the situation. And for me, I feel like it was unfair that I still got the strike, because it's like I did everything right. If it was just the associate had stepped in and then took control, but then also left me hanging. And it's like I did everything I was supposed to do. And I tried to explain to them, like, no, my PTSD, because I don't think I've ever talked to the higher ups about my mental or stuff like that. I guess it just felt so personal, and the way that this store is run, it's like you can't just tell anybody your business. The nepotism and favoritism is crazy. So this was just like really unfair to me, because it's like I did everything right, and it really wasn't my fault, because I recognized and I tried to seek help, but the associate stepped in, and like I said, I was in the midst of shutting down. So it was just like I couldn't even speak anymore. And I even tried to tell them, like, no, this is the situation. I'd have to make a whole video on that situation because it was a mess. Now this recent one, I guess I don't really know what to say about it. I guess I made a mistake that I didn't catch, because usually when I make these mistakes, it's something that I catch. So I'll take this one, I guess. But they found it like way after it happened, so I can't really say to that. But the first two, for sure, I felt like I didn't deserve those strikes. And you know, one of my biggest stresses right now is that I live in a small town that's very high Spanish speaking. So it's like if I don't have a degree, a lot of places require you to be bilingual. And this is like the only place I can work right now. And like, I really need this job, and I depend on this job. So going forward, I don't know what's gonna happen, because it's just like when stuff happens or when I need help, this store consistently lets me down. Anyways, if you watched to the end, thanks for listening. But again, like, I'm curious to what everybody's journey is, because I know a lot of my trauma, my anxieties, and my depressional states really do affect my work performance, and I just don't know what to do.